Hi, peeps. Welcome back to another episode. It's a rainy day out here today, so got the comfy clothes on, ready to go, ready to talk about a new subject. And I'm going to do a book report of such from a book that I just read. But actually, this book was recommended by my oldest daughter, Ariel, and I told her that I was going to talk about this. She's so excited. She really enjoyed this book. And we both agreed, like, we don't agree with every single thing in this book, but man, it just gave us food for thought. And the book is called Please Yell at My Kids. It's not what you think. It's what cultures around the world can teach you about parenting in community, raising independent kids, and not losing your mind. Yes. My daughter has 3 children under the age of 8. So 8, 5, well, he'll be turning 8. She'll be turning 5. Youngest just turned 2. She is in it, man. Let me tell you, she needs all the community she can get. And after reading this book, she said, Mom, read this book because it really had some just great ideas and great opinions and things that we can do differently to really help with our kids and grandkids. And, you know, it was just something that was just food for thought because they do live 6 hours away from us. And we do have a place closer down there in Southern California. But, you know, it's really hard being away from the children on the daily. But also, I do believe in having like an independent life too, after I have raised my children. So there is a whole section in here about grandparents. We'll get into that. But, you know, I wrote this little thing as when it comes to where we take our cues of what motherhood should look like, do we copy what other moms do or didn't do? Or do we listen to the advice and get help from others? Man, the beginning of this book it locked me in right away because this woman is a reporter. She is also married. She's Brazilian. Her husband is Chinese American. And they come from these 2 different cultures. And they ended up moving to these different places at different times of their life with their children. And the beginning of this book, it was so great because it just reminded me of Portuguese. You know, Brazilian is Portuguese culture. I'm half Portuguese. I was raised by a very hard Portuguese, full-blooded Portuguese mom and grandma that I would see on occasion. And I could see the strength in this. She starts the book by saying they were visiting. They were really good friends with this the Brazilian friend of hers. And the kids were all friends. Everybody was cool. One day, the son, this author's son, jumped up on the couch. I can't remember the story exactly. Jumped up on the couch. It was like kind of tenable that he was going to touch something, like something on a shelf or something. He was going to potentially break something. And she said, get your feet off the couch. Like, you cannot do this. And he basically said no to her, and she gave him a look, which I know the look because I've given that look to my kids so many times where it's just like, I will cut you. Like, I'm not kidding. And the author said, I've tried to give that look. I've never given that look to my kids. And when I've tried, they've laughed at me. But she said there was something in her face where she was serious. Like, I will take over the discipline if you do not do what I say. And she said they had a stare down, her and this child. And she said he eventually, like, slowly got off the couch. And then he went with, you know, her son, and they played. And she said there was no, you can't talk to my son that way. Like, how dare you try to discipline my child? She said he learned from somebody else what limitations were. And it's something in our culture that we've kind of pulled away from. It's like we have this placement now where gentle parenting is all the rage. I get it. I was raised by a really hardcore, abusive mom, and I didn't want to raise my kids that way. But I'm going to tell you something. When I was raising my girls, I would give that look. I also I could count on one hand, probably 3 times in their life when there was a limit where it was either very dangerous or it was just something where I was just like, oh my gosh, no. And I just popped them on the butt. I didn't spank them. I didn't beat them. I didn't, most of the time it was like, go to your room and think about what you've done. We'll talk when you calm down, kind of thing. There was rageful moments from both ends, where I was like screaming and then I would run in my room and be like, I don't want to scream at these kids. Let's find a different way. So I was like half gentle parent, half strict parent. And my kids grew up very respectful. They knew when they went to someone else's house that the rules applied no matter where they were. It's like, you have to be polite. You have to sit still. If it's an adult conversation, you're going to have to sit on that couch and sit still. Like, yes, we'll bring you some toys, but like, you can't run rampant through someone else's house and think that there's no rules. And so it just gave me pause when I was reading this book, and also how community comes around and celebrates motherhood instead of us having to do it on our own. And that was something that, I gravely needed. And I did have a small community of women that helped, but growing up, not having a mom to help, and then having children and not having a mom to help was so depressive. And this book is all about your community, your family. She talks about when the mothers are pregnant, people actually come in droves to the hospital in these different countries. In Brazil, they have full-on parties, like sometimes over the top parties. Like, it's almost like Hollywood style. Like, they're spending tens of thousands of dollars decorating these rooms out and getting gifts for everybody and having food and catering and all this stuff, because when that baby's born, everyone celebrates the birth of this child. It's not a private moment. It is to be celebrated. And also, she was saying these women come in and gather around, and where you feel kind of like evasive, like, oh, this is taking up my space and my privacy. She said, what I discovered when I gave birth, and it was a difficult birth that she gave, she said, I wanted to hole up and like isolate, but these women and relatives kept coming around, and they were doing her laundry, and they were entertaining her friends, and they were taking care of the baby, and they were taking care of her and feeding her and doing all these things. And she was like, it's a lot. And then she said, suddenly one day she was like, I realized what they were doing is that they were surrounding me with love so that I could cry in front of them. I could tell them this is really hard. And because these were all women that had gone through this motherhood journey, they could sit with her and say, we know, honey, and you're going to get through this. It's going to be okay. We're here. Like, go ahead. You can cry. This is really hard. Your body has been through a journey. And that was one of the things that I really loved about this book too, is like, in American cultures, we're taught to just toughen up, like just toughen up, go back to work 2 weeks later. And they said, your body has been through major injury. Like, you've delivered a child through your body. Like, all your organs are having to shift back to where they are. Everything has to heal. It takes time to heal. In Singapore, they don't want you to even move for 40 days. You can't even take a shower, which I'm like, I don't think I could do that. But they are literally like feeding you these soups that like help your milk come in so that you can nurse, and just all these different things that cultures do. And that they gather around the mom, and they discovered that the depression rate in some of these countries go down when you have this community of women and people helping to walk you through this journey slowly and lovingly, and let you just soak in this resting time and soak in your baby and get used to this new way of life, because it is a new way of life. I looked in the mirror one day and I went, I'm a mom. That's frightening. Like, the scariest thing when you go from Phylis or Mrs. Mantelli to I'm a mom. It's shocking. It's just a weird place to be. and you are now entering into this new world. And if you have to do that on your own, or you have to hurry up and get back to what normal life is, you kind of skip over that placement of embracing this new journey, this new chapter that you're going into. So super loved this book. And then they talked about also where the grandparents fit into the roles of raising these children with your family. I haven't finished the whole book yet, so I kind of skimmed over different areas, and it went like the first, I want to say 5 or 6 chapters is really all about motherhood and giving birth and having your community and learning different ways from different cultures, and how when she wrote about this, I can't remember, now I'm having a blank. I can't remember. It was like, I don't want to say Wall Street Journal. I think it was was it the New York Times? I don't remember where she wrote this article, but she wrote about this experience. And she said the backlash from the American people, the moms it was so blatant, where they were like, oh my gosh, no, we don't want people around us. We don't want people in the hospital. She was saying there was even, I think it was in Brazil, there was even a double room. If a woman had to go in for a cesarean, they had a room next door where all the family could wait, and then they would open the curtains after they had taken the baby out so they could see the baby. And, it was a big celebration, and women went crazy in the United States. She said that the backlash from the comments was just immense, where they were like, this is horrible. Like, we don't want that. And she said, we're not really embracing, the culture of community, that we don't understand it. And so then we just poo-poo it all. And she goes, I'm not saying that, that's what you have to do. Maybe you want a more private moment. That's fine. But she said also there's places where we're pushing people aside and their opinions. And just like I talked about in the beginning of the book, of like, if someone else is telling your child no, you get offended because you're like, that's my kid. You shouldn't tell them how to be or what to eat or how to act. And it's like, no, they need to learn from different people too, what is right or wrong. Now, I don't want anyone putting my hands on my grandkids, nothing like that. But I'm just saying, we have gone to the extreme of this gentle parenting, where it's like your way and no one else's opinion matters. But there are grandparents, there are older people, there are people that have walked through this journey. And as a grandparent now, and I'm reading this book, and she's extremely much younger than I am, there are things that I'm reading in here where I'm like, yeah, but here's my experience with that, because I've walked through that. I've raised adult children. I'm with my grandkids now. And so there was this part about where the grandparents fit in. And in Singapore, they actually pay the grandparents to be close, to stay close to their families, so that they can caretake for these children while the wife and the husband work. And then the grandparents become the caregivers, or the daycare, if you will, and they reward them for that. Now, she did say, like, that's not always possible, especially here, in our case, we don't live next door to our kids. And here's my part as a grandparent. I want to be a grandparent to my grandkids. I don't want to be a daycare to my grandkids. I've raised my children, and so I want to have other activities and other things. Obviously, I do. Like, I have a career. And so I have a flexible career because I'm a writer and a coach and a speaker. I can adjust my schedule so that when I am with my grandkids for 2 or 3 weeks or a month or however long we decide to stay down there, I can adjust my schedule to match the kids' schedule so that we can go pick up the kids from school and we can cook them dinners and, we can spend good quality time with them. And then I can go and do my thing too. And my husband and I want to travel. And so we don't want to be tied down to watching children again. That's just my opinion. That's where I am in my life. I have friends that are grandparents that do have all of their kids that live close by, and they watch those grandkids on the daily and do all of the things so that the parents can go out and work and do their thing, and and they're happy doing that. That's not where I want to be. Like, I don't want to be tied down to another child. I raised my kids, and I want to have flexibility. So when I am in, I am all in. And when I'm ready to go do something else, like I want to have the flexibility to be able to do that and not feel the guilt of, oh, but I have these kids. It's like, they're not my kids. They're your kids. So it's like, you need to figure that out. And so that's where it hits a little bit differently. And she does mention that, like you have to be respectful that, if they want to travel or if they have something going on, be respectful of their schedule. But reality is a lot of these grandparents are raising up, and also in these cultures, they don't have a lot of nursing homes and things. It's like the parents live with the kids until the day they die. And that is different in American culture. And honestly, with the crazy family I had, I told people when I put my mom in the nursing home, she can't come live with me because I'd probably kill her, because she was very stubborn, and there was a lot of stuff going on. And also she had dementia, and again, like that's a whole thing. One person can't raise children and take care of a parent that is sick like that. You have to, again, have a community of people coming in and helping you, because I've watched caregivers age 10, 20 years trying to do it all. And that's too much. And so there's just this kind of a good conversation of what does community look like in your neighborhood, in your family kind of thing. We have a great neighborhood here where everyone helps each other out if somebody gets sick. We just had a friend that broke her arm, and I offered to cook them dinner, and they were like, no, we're fine. And then they saw me at the grocery store, and they were like, what are you making tonight? And I said, chicken enchiladas. And then I took a picture of it, and they said, we would like some of those. And I said, I'll save you some. And so I brought them some dinner the next night, because that's how our community works in this neighborhood. We are all friends. We all help each other. We also have respect when they say no. And then we wait, and, we gather around. We have block parties. We're a very loving group. So we are here for each other. If somebody falls, we are there to help pick them up. And I think that's the core of this book, is to have that kind of community, especially as a mom. I can tell you now, my motherhood journey, if I could do it differently, I would have gathered more people around me. I did it solo for so long, where I was depressed. I know I had postpartum with Dominique, and I was so depressed and so sad, and just lost. And I didn't know how to ask for help. And I didn't have a community. And man, when I was reading this book, I was like, if I could have had a group of women coming in and like holding my hand and cooking me soup and sitting with me while I could cry and say like, this is so confusing, and I'm, so sad, and I feel overwhelmed, and they could just sit there with me and say like, we're in it with you. It's okay. We're here. Tell us what you need. Like, we're here for you. That would have made all the difference in the world. And so I'm going to encourage you guys, if you're a new mom, if you're thinking about becoming a new mom, my daughter is expecting, my youngest, Dominique, is expecting her first. And I told her, like, surround yourself with friends and family. Don't leave them out. Don't try to tough it out and just get back to normal. Take your time, because this is a beautiful moment, and your body needs time to heal. Your mind needs time to heal, and everything needs time to catch up. And I think community is the most important thing that you can do when you become a new mom. So I hope that this episode helped you. Also, go ahead and buy this book. Like, please yell at my kids. It's by Marina Lopes. It's Lopes. So it might be Lopes. I think it's Lopez, because it's Brazilian. But I think you will really benefit from this book and really honor the community that you're in. And so until next time, I'll see you later, peeps.